My name is Claudia Voss. I was 47 years old when my daughter moved my name into a gray box marked *view only, * on a ballroom projector, smiled at 200 donors, and told me to stand beside the banner while she submitted a $380,000 grant for the winter shelter hotline I had built with my own hands. She did it with one finger on a tablet, one drag, one drop, one small public burial. On the screen, my name sat in pale gray letters, Claudia Voss, view only. Beside it, in clean blue, was hers. 204 donors saw it. 18 shelter partners saw it. 6 city reviewers sat near the stage with open laptops, watching the same screen while the ballroom lights reflected off their glasses. My daughter did not flinch. She looked proud, almost relieved, as if she had finally put a messy old object where it belonged. Then she leaned close enough that only I could hear her, though the microphone in her hand made me careful not to breathe too hard. "Mom," she whispered, "do not make this emotional. You're not the shelter. You're the contact email." The contact email. That was what 14 winters had become to her, not the woman who answered frozen midnight calls when heat died in senior apartments. Not the woman who drove strangers to church basements, motel rooms, food pantries, clinic lobbies, and once, when every other door was closed, her own bedroom. Not the woman whose phone number police dispatch gave out when a furnace failed after dark. Just an email address that was still useful until the money moved. At the top of the grant portal, a timer kept counting down. Times 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 48 seconds. 1 hour, 3 minutes, and 48 seconds before the city's winter relief grant portal closed. The grant was worth $380,000. Sabine had already placed her new salary inside the budget. Felix, her husband, had a consulting fee under operational modernization. Her name was printed on the opening slide. Her photo was inside the press kit. Her speech cards were stacked neatly beside the podium. And my email, the old one she called embarrassing, was still listed as the emergency repayment contact. That was the part she had not read. She turned back toward the room and lifted her voice. "My mother has always cared deeply about this work," she said, warm and smooth. "But tonight we move from compassion to leadership." Some donors nodded, because people in rooms like that enjoy words that sound clean. They like leadership. They like modernization. They like transition when someone else pays the cost. They did not know that, in that moment, leadership meant my daughter lowering my name in public while expecting my silence to make her life safe. Felix stood beside the podium in a charcoal suit with a winter blue pocket square. He held the tablet as if he were carrying the future itself. When he looked at me, he did not smirk. Smirking would have been too honest. He gave me the calm little smile of a man who had already spent money that had not yet been approved. Sabine touched my elbow. "Stand beside the banner," she said. "Let me finish." The banner behind us read, "Voss Winter Access Initiative, a new era of shelter response? Sananda Astra Response. My name. Her era." I looked at the projector again, at that gray box around my name, and then at the smaller line near the bottom of the portal. NUMP's owner email, claudia.voss@sasanane. Sabine had the microphone. Felix had the tablet. The donors had the story she wanted them to believe, but the city still had my email. And the system was about to ask a question my daughter had never thought to fear. I did not reach for the tablet. I did not explain 14 winters into a microphone. I did not beg the room to remember what they had not seen. I folded my hands in front of me and stayed exactly where she put me, because she had dragged my name into the gray box too early. That was her mistake. To understand why one old email could stop an entire ballroom, you need to understand what Winter Access was before my daughter turned it into a logo. It began before there were banners, donors, consultants, gala programs, or press kits. It began with a woman named Mrs. Dorsey, purple fingers, and a clinic lobby that smelled like wet wool. 14 years earlier, I worked the front desk at a small urgent care clinic on the east side of Harrow Falls, Ohio. I was 33 then, divorced, raising Sabine alone, and living in an apartment where the baseboard heaters clicked through the night like they were counting down to something. One January evening, Mrs. Dorsey came into the clinic apologizing for the snow melting off her boots. She was 79, wearing a pink knit hat with a pom-pom and carrying a plastic grocery bag full of pill bottles. The doctor treated her for early frostbite. No fever, no infection, no fall, no accident. Just 3 days in an apartment with no heat because her landlord said the repairman was backed up. When the doctor told her she could not go back there that night, she laughed in the thin, embarrassed way older people laugh when dignity is all they have left, and even that is being tested. The social worker had gone home. The shelter intake line was closed. The churches were full. Motel vouchers opened at 9 the next morning, as if cold waited politely for office hours. I called 12 numbers. No answer, no bed, no transport, no after-hours approval. At 10:41 p.m., I drove Mrs. Dorsey to my apartment. Sabine was 7 and had fallen asleep on the couch with a math worksheet under her cheek. I carried my daughter to bed, made tea for a woman I had met that night, and gave Mrs. Dorsey my room. The next morning, while snow scratched the window and Sabine asked why a stranger was using our towels, Mrs. Dorsey wrapped both hands around a mug and said, "There ought to be one number people can call before they freeze." So I made one, not officially, not cleverly, not with seed funding, branding, or a committee. I bought a prepaid phone from a discount store, wrote the number on index cards, and left them at the clinic, the library, 2 churches, a laundromat, and a senior center. At first, people called because their heat was out. Then they called because they needed a ride. Then they needed blankets, food, a motel room, or someone to stay on the line while they waited in a stairwell because the apartment upstairs had become unsafe. I called it winter access because I did not want it to sound like charity. People ask for access more easily than help. That first winter, I answered 47 calls. The second winter, 190. By the 5th winter, the city knew my name, although not always for reasons that helped. By the 8th, we had volunteers, motel partners, a church basement warming station, and a small emergency ride fund. By the 10th, the city made me create an online account in its relief portal so the little hotline could be tracked, reviewed, and reimbursed. By the 14th winter, police dispatch gave out our number when a senior's furnace failed after dark. Sabine grew up with that phone ringing in the kitchen. When she was little, she hated it because it took me away from dinner. When she was a teenager, she rolled her eyes and called it Mom's crisis phone. After college, she came back to Harrow Falls with a communications degree, a husband who called himself a systems strategist, and a new way of looking at everything I had built. The first time she called Winter Access underbranded, I thought she was teasing. She was not. "You have a trust problem," she told me over lunch one Tuesday. I almost laughed. People call me at 2 in the morning because they trust me. That's not what I mean. Felix opened his laptop, and he always opened the laptop as if a curtain had risen and everyone should admire the show. On the screen was a logo I had never asked for, white letters, a blue background, and a thin outline of a house with a small flame inside it. Minor Oddshots Time, Winter Access Initiative. I stared at the name. Why is our last name that big? Sabine smiled with the patience of someone explaining the world to an elderly relative she had started to find inconvenient. Local recognition matters. Felix clicked to the next slide. Abnite, Executive Transition Plan. I set my fork down. Transition from what? Sabine reached across the table and touched my wrist. Mom, you cannot answer every call forever. I don't answer every call. You try to. That is not the same thing. Felix clicked again, and a photo of me appeared. I was standing outside the church basement in a parka, holding a cardboard box of donated gloves. They had turned the photo black and white, which made it look less like work and more like a memorial. Under the photo, the caption read, Claudia Voss, Original Contact and Community Inspiration. I looked at my daughter. I'm not dead, Sabine blinked. No one said you were. Then why does this look like you're speaking after my funeral? Felix closed the laptop halfway, which was his way of pretending to soften the room while keeping control of it. Claudia, this is just language. But language is never just language when someone is moving your name. I told them I was not stepping down. Sabine said no one was asking me to step down. Felix said the phrase was, "step back from operations." I told them operations were the work, and Sabine's face tightened in a way I had seen before when she was a teenager, and I would not give her the answer she had already chosen. "No, Mom," she said. "Operations are what keep the work from falling apart." I paid for lunch, which was one more small habit I should have examined sooner. By spring, strange things began happening around the account. The city portal sent verification codes I had not requested. Volunteer forms appeared with Sabine's name in the header. The hotline voicemail changed from my plain message to a recorded voice saying, "Thank you for calling Voss Winter Access Initiative, a modern shelter response network led by Sabine Voss Keller." Keller was Felix's last name. She had attached his name to mine and placed both above the work. When I called her, she said the old voicemail sounded like somebody's personal phone. "It is somebody's personal phone," I said. "That's the problem." The problem? That word began following me through every conversation. My voice was a problem. My old email was a problem. My paper route notes were a problem. My habit of calling seniors by name was inefficient. My refusal to use intake scripts was unprofessional. My caution was resistance. My memory was anecdotal. My work became, in their language, a legacy issue. In May, Sabine arranged a meeting at the public library. She invited 6 shelter partners, 2 volunteers, 1 donor, and a young man from a branding agency who wore white sneakers in winter. I had not been told it was a formal meeting until I arrived and saw the screen. On it was a draft website. Our leadership, Sabine Voss Keller, Executive Director, Strategy and Operations, Nonchayo Jerkodes Claudia Voss, Founder Emeritus, *Emeritus. I looked at Sabine. What does that mean here? It honors you. Does it give me access to the city portal? The man in white sneakers looked down at his notebook, as if the carpet had suddenly become fascinating. Sabine kept smiling. "Mom, let's not make this technical." At the far end of the table sat Tilda Marsh. Tilda was 59, a former motel night manager with cropped red hair, a gravelly voice, and no patience for decorative nonsense. She had joined Winter Access after her brother spent one night sleeping in his truck during a power outage because he did not know who to call. Tilda handled the midnight ride list. She knew which motels accepted vouchers without making people feel like beggars, which landlords lied, which church basements had working coffee, and which volunteers could drive on ice without creating another emergency. Tilda pointed at the screen. "Emeritus sounds like she gets flowers and no password." The room shifted because truth has weight even before people admit they heard it. Sabine laughed once. "Tilda, that's not fair. Then fix the part that makes it sound true." Felix leaned forward. "We're not here to debate titles." Tilda sat back. "People usually say that when titles are exactly the point." I did not smile, but I wanted to. After that meeting, Sabine stopped inviting Tilda to planning calls. Tilda still came to the church basement every Thursday night with her own thermos. And every week she asked me the same question. "Can you still get in?" She meant the city portal. At first, yes. Then sometimes. Then only if I requested a code. In August, a yellow banner appeared at the top of the account. NOPSH owner verification required before major grant submission. NOPSH thens. Tomsh, I clicked it. NOPSH owner Claudia Voss, admin, Sabine Voss Keller, Mance, viewer, Felix Keller, emergency dispatch coordinator, Tilda Marsh, finance viewer. Felix had told me he needed temporary budget access. Temporary had apparently pulled up a chair and made itself comfortable. I called the support number and stayed on hold for 22 minutes before a woman answered. "City Relief Portal Support. This is Priya." "My name is Claudia Voss," I said. "I need to know what account ownership means." She verified my name, date of birth, old email, and the last 4 digits of the original hotline number. Then she said, "You are listed as the account owner. Can an admin submit a grant? Yes. Can an admin remove an owner? No. Can an admin change how the owner appears in presentation views? In some display settings, yes. Can they change who is responsible if the grant is misused? No. I looked at the old hotline phone on my kitchen counter. It was not the original device, of course, but the number had survived 2 phones, 1 divorce, 3 apartments, years of bad funding, and my daughter's respect. Who receives the first repayment notice? I asked. If money is misused, the owner email. And if someone says I approved a transition I did not approve. Priya's voice became careful. You should file an account review. Do not change roles yourself until reviewed. Do not share verification codes. Do not approve a submission you believe contains false information. She sent me a link. I did not fill it out right away. I sat at my kitchen table until the room turned dark, thinking about the child who once hated the hotline because it rang during dinner, and the woman who now wanted the grant, the title, the stage, the salary, and the applause. But not the risk. The applause would wear Sabine's name. The repayment letter would find mine. At 11:13 that night, I filed the review. I attached screenshots, the roll page, the altered voicemail, the leadership slide, the grant draft, the salary line, Felix's fee, and one sentence on page 4 that made my hands go cold. Original founder confirmed executive transition to Sabine Voss Keller effective July 1st. I had confirmed nothing. The next morning, Priya called again. This time she gave her full name, Priya Nanda Kumar, because account reviews required formal identification. Ms. Voss, she said, I handle account security, not grant approval. I need to ask you direct questions. Go ahead. Did you approve executive transition to Sabine Voss Keller? No. Did you authorize Felix Keller as finance viewer? No. Did you approve the proposed executive salary of $88,000? No. Did you approve your role being changed to founder emeritus? No. Did you authorize the statement saying you confirmed transition effective July 1st? No. After each answer, she typed. The sound of the keys steadied me more than any comfort could have. Ms. Voss, Priya said, the account history shows multiple presentation label changes by admin user Sabine Voss Keller. It also shows 2 failed owner recovery replacement attempts, one for email and one for phone. Failed. There are ugly words that become beautiful when the right person says them. Because the annual grant submission is connected to a live donor event, Priya continued, a city reviewer will verify leadership on site before accepting the final filing. Bring government ID. Bring the device connected to your owner email. Do not warn other account users. Will Winter Access lose the grant? If false leadership information is presented, the grant can be suspended. If corrected before submission, it can proceed under conditional review. I looked at the radiator under my kitchen window. It hissed once, like an old animal waking. I want the hotline to survive. Then let the account tell the truth, Priya said. That became the sentence I carried into the gala. Not revenge, not anger. The account would tell the truth. Pause here with me for a moment. This channel is for people who have watched someone call their life's work just a contact, while still needing their name to carry the risk. If you know that feeling, write where you are listening from, and tell me this. Have you ever had someone try to use your silence as permission? The Winter Relief Gala was Sabine's idea. She booked the top floor of the Marlowe Hotel, a glass-roofed ballroom with white lights hanging from the ceiling like frozen rain. She sold sponsorship tables, invited landlords, donors, shelter directors, council members, 2 local reporters, and every partner who had ever answered one of my desperate calls in a snowstorm. She also ordered a step-and-repeat banner without showing me the final proof. When I saw it, the words were already printed. Voss, Winter Access Initiative, Founder's Legacy. New leadership. Founder's Legacy. New leadership. I called Sabine. She answered on speaker, and I knew Felix was with her because her patience had an audience. Take that wording off the banner, I said. Mom, the banner is already printed. Then don't use it. We are trying to raise money. No, you are trying to raise your title. Felix cut in. Claudia, that kind of attitude is exactly why donors need reassurance. Donors need heat kept on, Sabine said, and heat requires money. Money requires trust. Exactly, she said. So please do not damage that trust at the gala. The warning was wrapped as a plea, but it was still a warning. The day before the gala, Sabine came to my apartment with a garment bag. Inside was a silver gray blazer, expensive and stiff enough to look like it had never needed to sit in a cold car at midnight. I got you something appropriate, she said. I have clothes. The blue cardigan makes you look like intake staff. I was intake staff. That's not the story tomorrow. I looked at the blazer. What is the story tomorrow? She smoothed the sleeve with 2 fingers. That you started something good and trusted me enough to make it sustainable. Did I? Her fingers stopped, then resumed. Mom, did I trust you enough to take over? Her mouth tightened. You trusted me with everything else. That was almost true. I had trusted her with my house key, my debit card in emergencies, my car when she was 17, my fears when she was 24, and asked why I never remarried, my grief when my own mother died. I had trusted her with many things. That did not include my name on a city repayment form. She pushed the garment bag toward me. Wear the blazer. Stand beside me. Let me submit the grant. After tonight, we can figure out your advisory role. Advisory. It means respected. It means muted. Her face hardened for half a second before she corrected it. Please do not humiliate me in front of the city. I looked at my daughter for a long time. Then I said, I will be there. She kissed my cheek. Her perfume stayed after she left, sharp and expensive in my little kitchen. The next evening, I wore my own black dress. No blazer, no silver pin, no branded scarf. At 6:12 p.m., I walked into the Marlowe Hotel ballroom, carrying my phone, my driver's license, and the old hotline number transferred into a modern device with a cracked corner. Tilda waited near the registration table in a dark green suit. She looked me up and down. No blazer? No. Good. The ballroom was already half full. Donors stood in clusters with wine glasses. Shelter partners checked name tags. City reviewers sat at a narrow table near the stage. I recognized Priya Nandakumar from her badge. Beside her sat a man named Leonard Say, senior grant reviewer. He wore a brown suit, no tie, and the expression of someone who had seen too many nonprofits confuse branding with service. He glanced at me for less than a second. That was enough. Sabine moved through the room like the evening belonged to her because she had paid for the flowers with money not yet approved. Felix followed with the tablet. My tablet. I knew the tablet because of the hairline crack across the lower left corner. I had dropped it outside a motel 2 winters earlier while trying to get a veteran named Hal into a room before the temperature fell below 10. Sabine saw me. Her eyes went to my dress first, then my empty lapel, then my phone. She smiled anyway because the room required it. Mom, she said, kissing the air beside my cheek, you came. I said I would. Felix nodded. Claudia. Felix. He looked past me toward the reviewers. You'll follow Sabine's lead tonight, yes? No. His eyes came back to mine. I'll follow the portal, I said. Before he could answer, Sabine touched his arm. Not now. The program began at 7. Felix welcomed everyone and called Winter Access a platform, then a civic solution, then a scalable model. He did not say Mrs. Dorsey's name. He did not mention the church basement, the motel list, the volunteers who drove on ice, or the old phone that rang through fevers, birthdays, and unpaid bills. A councilwoman spoke. A shelter director spoke. A donor spoke about modernization. Then Sabine took the stage. The screen behind her lit up. From Hotline to Housing Network, asterisk below it, Sabine Voss-Keller, Executive Director, asterisk applause filled the room. I stood along the sidewall beside Tilda, my phone in my hand and the old email already logged in. Sabine spoke beautifully, and I will not lie about that. She knew how to hold her shoulders, when to smile, when to lower her voice. She told the story of winter access without the parts that made it inconvenient. There were no unpaid nights in her version, no overdraft fees, no tenants crying because they thought needing heat made them failures, no 7-year-old Sabine sleeping on the couch while Mrs. Dorsey took my bed. In her version, compassion had evolved into leadership, and leadership had her name. Finally, the projector switched to the grant portal. Applicant: Voss Winter Access Initiative. Executive Director: Sabine Voss Keller. Founder Legacy Contact: Claudia Voss. Grant request: $380,000. Asterisk. Submission status: pending live verification. Founder Legacy Contact. Tilda inhaled through her nose, and that was not a sound anyone wanted aimed at them. Sabine looked toward me. "Mom, come up." Every face turned. I walked to the stage the way I had walked across frozen parking lots, toward people waiting under dead porch lights, steady enough for the person watching to believe help had arrived. Sabine reached for my hand, and I let her take it because the room needed to see what she thought she could do. "My mother started this work with a phone and a good heart," she said. Polite applause passed through the room. Then she lowered the microphone and whispered, "Unlock the tablet." It needed my thumbprint. Of course it did. The old object still wanted the old hand. I placed my thumb on the button. The tablet opened. Sabine took it from me before I could move, and the projector mirrored the screen. She tapped account rolls, dragged my display tile down, and dropped my name into the gray box. Claudia Voss, view only. Then she tapped her own tile. Blue, Rogarat Kunmon, no Katarang. Minzag, Kan Rogarat Kunmon, no, those Katarang. Hederat Keller. No Katarat Keller. Admin. Hederat Kunmon, no, Heterograt Keller. This is just a presentation view. My mother gets nervous about buttons. A few people gave polite, uncertain laughs, the kind people offer when they are not sure whether they have been invited to witness a joke or a cruelty. Tilda did not laugh. Sabine leaned close. "You're not the shelter," she whispered. "You're the contact email." Then into the microphone she said, "We are ready for live verification." Leonard Say stood. So did Priya. Leonard carried no folder, which comforted me. No paper drama, no theatrical reveal, just a laptop and a system with memory. He stepped onto the stage. "Thank you, Ms. Voss Keller. Before final submission, the city must verify account ownership, leadership authority, and repayment responsibility." Sabine smiled. "Of course. Please leave the roll history visible." Her smile thinned. "Oh, that will not be necessary. We can go straight to submission." Priya spoke from the side of the stage. "No, we cannot." The microphone made her quiet voice sound like a door closing. Felix moved closer. "Is there a technical issue?" Priya looked at him. "There is an account review flag." The projector refreshed. A yellow banner appeared across the top of the screen. Murray account review, active owner verification required. A murmur moved through the ballroom. Sabine recovered quickly. "That must be an old support ticket. We've had legacy access clutter." Legacy. There I was again, dressed up as clutter. Leonard clicked once, and a document opened. Executive Transition Statement. Submitted October 4th, original founder confirmed executive transition to Sabine Voss Keller, effective July 1st. Leonard turned to Sabine. "Did you submit this statement?" She lifted her chin. "Yes." "Did Claudia Voss confirm this transition?" Sabine looked at me, and for 1 second her eyes said what her mouth would not. "Be my mother. Save me." Then she said, "My mother has supported the growth of this initiative from the beginning." Leonard did not move. "That was not my question." Felix stepped forward. "Reviewers say Claudia is emotional about change. That is common with founders. Sabine has been doing the executive work for months." Leonard turned toward him. "Mr. Keller, you are listed as finance viewer, not applicant representative. Please step back." Every table heard it. Felix stepped back. "Not far. Enough." Leonard looked at me. "Miss Voss, Did you confirm executive transition to Sabine Voss Keller, effective July 1st? I looked at my daughter. She was very still now. No, I said. The word did not need volume. Priya clicked. The roll history opened. Morse, May 18th. Sabine Voss Keller changed public title Claudia Voss from founder to founder emeritus. Times, June 6th. Sabine Voss Keller added Felix Keller as finance viewer. Times, August 2nd. Sabine Voss Keller attempted owner email replacement. Failed. Times, September 11th. Sabine Voss Keller attempted owner recovery phone replacement. Failed. October 4th. Sabine Voss Keller submitted executive transition statement. November 18th. Sabine Voss Keller changed Claudia Voss' presentation role to view only. The projector fan kept humming after the room lost its easy noise. No one needed interpretation. The room could read. Sabine said, "Those were internal cleanup steps." Priya leaned toward the microphone. "Internal cleanup does not include failed owner replacement attempts," Felix said. "This is being taken out of context," Tilda called from the side of the room. "What context makes that pretty?" Heads turned. Sabine snapped, "Tilda, please." Tilda walked forward but did not take the stage. She stood below it with her arms at her sides. "You removed me from the dispatch meeting too," she said, then asked me for motel contacts the same night. "This is not about you," Sabine said. "No," Tilda answered. "It's about the phone you wanted and the calls you never answered." Leonard turned to Priya. "Proceed." Priya clicked again. The budget appeared. Demarty grant request, $380,000. *** executive director salary, $88,000. *** strategy consultant fee, $42,000. * brand expansion campaign, $31. 500 ** emergency motel fund, $49,000. ** heating repair reserve, $18,000. A shelter director at table 3 leaned forward. $49,000 from motel placements out of 380? No one answered. Leonard opened the review note. Nope's not projected emergency placements unsupported by historical call logs. Sabine said, "Those are growth projections." Priya said, "They were entered as historical service capacity." Another click. Call log comparison. My old hotline records. Tilda's ride list. The portal entries. The inflated numbers sat beside the real numbers, and columns can be more brutal than shouting when they are honest. Leonard faced Sabine. Because leadership confirmation failed, role changes are disputed, and budget integrity is under review, this application cannot be submitted under your admin authority. Sabine gripped the tablet. "You can't lock us out with an hour left." Priya looked at her laptop. "We already have." The tablet screen changed. Not for C80MIN session suspended. Sabine tapped it. Nothing happened. Felix reached toward the screen. Priya clicked again. Not finance viewer access revoked pending review. Felix stopped moving. The microphone caught his breath, not as a sob, but as something uglier. Calculation failing in public. Sabine turned to me. "Mom, tell them to stop." After every title she had changed, every screen she had edited, every room where she had made me smaller, she still expected my voice to become a rescue rope the moment the floor opened under her. I looked at the projector, at my name in gray, at the timer. Shun times 0 hours 41 minutes and 22 seconds. Shun times. At the owner email line, still sitting there underneath all her performance, Leonard turned to me. "Ms. Voss, because you are the verified owner email and original account holder, the city can permit emergency correction if you confirm leadership, repayment responsibility, and corrected budget before the portal closes." Sabine whispered, "Don't." Felix whispered, "Claudia, think carefully." Tilda said, "She is." Priya said, "Owner verification link sent." My phone buzzed once in my palm. The old email woke up. I opened it. Priya City Relief Portal, owner verification required. Esmoro Raz. Priya said, enter the code privately. Do not read it aloud. I typed the code. The projector refreshed. The gray box vanished. My name moved. Not blue, not decorative, not softened for donors. Black text. Bold. More owner verified. Claudia Voss. Docs. A donor lowered her phone. A waiter froze, with a tray, near the back wall. The councilwoman stopped whispering to the shelter director beside her. Above us, the ballroom heater clicked once, small and ordinary, as if reminding me why any of this mattered. I stepped to the microphone. I did not tell them about Mrs. Dorsey. I did not describe every winter Sabine had turned into a logo. I did not ask the donors to pity me. I said, you moved my name. The email did not move. That was all. Priya nodded. The city recognizes Claudia Voss as account owner and responsible applicant contact. Admin privileges for Sabine Voss Keller and finance access for Felix Keller remain suspended pending review. The executive transition statement is removed from the active submission. Leonard looked at the timer. Ends? Voss, do you wish to proceed with emergency correction? I looked at Tilda. She gave me one sharp nod. Yes, I said. For the next 33 minutes, the gala stopped being a performance and became work. Leonard asked questions. Priya verified roles. Tilda confirmed call logs. A shelter director corrected motel capacity. The heating repair reserve went up. The branding campaign went down to 0. The executive salary was removed. Felix's consulting fee was removed. A donor named Marjorie Ells stood and redirected her $25,000 pledge to emergency motel nights only. Another donor added $10,000 for heating repair invoices. The councilwoman offered a public building as an overflow warming site on code red nights. Sabine stood near the banner with the tablet dead in her hands. Not physically dead. Worse, useless to her. The timer dropped under 10 minutes. Leonard read the corrected statement aloud. Voss Winter Access Initiative remains under verified account ownership and grant responsibility of Claudia Voss. Emergency Dispatch Coordinator Tilda Marsh is authorized for call log verification only. No executive transition confirmed. No executive salary included. Prior disputed role changes preserved in review history. He looked at me. Confirm? I pressed the button myself. Submit. The portal spun. 4 seconds. 5. 6. Then the screen changed. Med-change job. Med-change received. Conditional review. Active. Not approval. Not fireworks. Not a perfect victory. Alive. Corrected. No longer wearing my daughter's lie as a name tag. Sabine stepped off the stage. Felix followed. At the ballroom doors, she turned back, and for 1 second I saw the child, who used to sleep through the hotline ringing in our kitchen. Then she was gone. The doors closed behind her. The projector stayed on. My name stayed where it was. The results did not arrive like lightning, because real consequences rarely do. They arrive through emails, notices, corrected records, and access screens that no longer opened for the people who had treated my name like furniture. First, the city suspended Sabine and Felix from all portal access during the review. Second, the executive transition statement was formally marked unsupported. Third, the role history stayed preserved in the public grant file because the attempted submission had occurred during a live donor event. Fourth, all donor pledges from the gala were frozen until donors reauthorized them under the corrected applicant contact. Fifth, Winter Access received a reduced but clean grant, $244,000 for emergency motel vouchers, heating repair coordination, transportation, and 2 seasonal intake workers. No executive salary, no consulting fee, no branding campaign, enough to keep people warm. That mattered more than the missing money. Sabine texted me 3 days later. You made me look like a thief. I wrote back. Asterisk. The screen showed what you changed. She did not answer. Felix sent a longer email. It used words like defamation, reputational harm, and legal options. Priya's office responded with exported roll history and time-stamped access records. Felix did not send another email. By December, his consulting firm removed winter access from its website. By January, Sabine resigned from a Young Leaders nonprofit board. By February, people in Harrow Falls had moved on to other scandals because towns are not loyal to outrage. They visit, eat, and leave. But the people who mattered remembered. The shelter partners remembered who answered the phone. The donors remembered who corrected the numbers. The city remembered which email verified. And I remembered something I should have learned earlier. A child can come from your body and still not be entitled to your work. That sentence sounds cold until you have lived the opposite. The first night of the new grant cycle, a code red alert came in. 14 degrees. Wind chill below zero. The city opened 2 warming stations. Tilda and I sat in the small office behind the church basement with Devin Price, one of the new seasonal intake workers. Devin was 22, kind, nervous, and terrified of the hotline. At 11:17 p.m. the phone rang. Devin looked at me. I nodded. He answered. Winter access. Are you somewhere safe right now? I closed my eyes. Not from exhaustion, although I had plenty of that. I closed them because the sentence had survived. Not the brand. Not the Gala. Not the banner. The sentence. Are you somewhere safe right now? That was the work. The next morning, I logged into the portal from the office computer. There was no ballroom, no projector, no donors, no Felix explaining scalability with both hands, just coffee in a chipped mug, and snow crusted along the window. The screen opened. Owner, Claudia Voss, Emergency Dispatch Coordinator, Tilda Marsh, Norwich Seasonal Intake, Devin Price, Finance Reviewer, Marjorie L's Foundation Restricted Fund, *no Sabine. No Felix. No gray box. I changed the password, not because I was afraid, because it was mine to change. Tilda came in carrying a box of donated gloves. She glanced at the screen. Still there? Yes. Good. The word did not sound like praise. It sounded like a door locking properly. Sabine came to the office in March. She did not call first. I saw her through the front window, standing outside in a camel coat with no hat, arms wrapped around herself against the cold. Tilda saw her too. Your weather, she said. I know. You want me to stay? Yes. Visible or useful? Both. Tilda leaned against the file cabinet. I opened the door. Sabine looked thinner. Not ill, just less polished, as if the world had stopped lighting her from the front. Can I talk to you? She asked. We can talk outside. Her face flinched. Then she nodded. We stood on the sidewalk while snowmelt ran along the curb. Across the street, a man scraped ice off his windshield with a credit card. Sabine looked through the window at the little office. It looked smaller than I remembered. It was always small. I made it sound huge. You made it sound yours. She swallowed. I know. I waited. That was new for me, not rushing to soften the silence, not rescuing her from discomfort she had earned, not making the moment easier just because I knew where her tears lived. She said, Felix and I separated. I'm sorry. Are you? Yes. I can be sorry for your pain without giving you the password. She almost smiled. Then she cried instead. I thought if I made it look professional, people would stop seeing me as the girl whose mom answered crisis calls from the kitchen. I said nothing. She wiped her face. I hated that phone. I know. I hated sharing you with strangers. I know. I think I turned that into wanting them to clap for me. That was the first honest thing she had said in a long time. I let it stand by itself. She looked at me. Can I come back? No. The word hurt me too, but hurting me did not make it wrong. She nodded like she had expected it. Can I ever? Maybe, not to lead, not to touch the account, not to speak to donors, not this year. What could I do? Write apology letters, real ones, to Tilda, to the shelter partners, to the donors whose money you tried to redirect. To me last. She cried harder at that. To you last? Yes. Why? Because if you write mine first, you will perform it. If you write theirs first, you may understand it. She covered her mouth. Inside the office, Tilda watched through the window without pretending otherwise. Sabine looked at her and gave a small, embarrassed wave. Tilda did not wave back. Fair. In April, the apology letters began arriving. Tilda brought hers to me one Thursday night. 1 page. Handwritten. No branding language. No pressure. No miscommunication. No, I was trying to help. Tilda read it twice, folded it, and slid it into her coat pocket. She spelled my name right, she said. That matters? More than people think. By summer, Sabine was volunteering at a different shelter, not ours. Good. Some repairs need another building. We spoke once a month. Not warmly at first, carefully, then slowly, like two people learning not to press the same bruise every time they pass each other in a hallway. I did not restore her access. I did not offer her a title. I did not pretend the Gala was a misunderstanding. But I stopped needing her punishment to stay fresh in order for my boundary to stay real. That was recovery, not forgetting, not opening the door because someone cried, not keeping the wound polished so everyone could admire it. Recovery was answering the hotline without feeling my daughter's hand on the tablet. Recovery was seeing my name in the portal and not bracing for it to disappear. Recovery was teaching Devin how to verify a motel voucher, watching him make his first successful placement, and hearing him say afterward, I understand now why the details matter. Recovery was Tilda taping a handwritten sign above the office computer, Shirta alone, one touches the owner email but Claudia. I told her it was too dramatic. She said, good. People read dramatic. In November, 1 year after the gala, we did not hold another gala. We held a winter readiness breakfast in the church basement. No glass roof. No banner about new eras. No executive speech. Just scrambled eggs, donated coffee, motel partners, drivers, shelter staff, and a stack of printed wallet cards with the hotline number. Marjorie Els came in boots and wrote another check. The councilwoman brought hand warmers. Devin trained 3 new volunteers. Tilda ran the sign-in table like a border checkpoint. At 9:30, the first snow of the season began falling. Not much, just enough to make everyone look toward the windows. My phone rang. The hotline number, I answered. Winter access. Are you somewhere safe right now? An older man said his furnace had stopped. He sounded embarrassed. They always do. I told him embarrassment could wait until May. Tilda grabbed the motel list. Devin opened the ride sheet. The room shifted into motion. No applause, no projector, no one called me inspirational, no one said founder. The work recognized my voice and moved. Later that afternoon, after the man was placed and the repair call was scheduled, I logged into the portal to enter the case note. The owner email field sat at the bottom of the screen, small and unimpressive. Still there. I touched the edge of the monitor, not the screen itself, just the frame. I thought about Sabine on that stage, dragging my name into the gray box. I thought about the donors watching. I thought about the way my body had wanted to save her even then. Then I thought about Mrs. Dorsey, warming her hands around tea in my old apartment while 7-year-old Sabine slept in the next room. There are things we start because no one else answered. There are things we protect because someone will always try to rename them once they become valuable. And there are doors we do not have to throw open just because family is standing outside with a new story. The email stayed. Not because email is sacred, because it carried the risk when others wanted the applause. Because it remembered the first winter. Because it knew the difference between love and surrender. Because before the banners, before the gala, before the gray box and the blue admin tile, there had been one question that still mattered more than any title Sabine ever wanted. Who actually answers when the cold comes? If you have ever had to keep your name where others tried to move it, type, Times, Asterisk. The email stayed.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to hear more, you can follow this channel. Don't forget to hit that little bell icon to be notified when a new video is uploaded.